Hi, I'm Gordon Brickell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com or, of course, follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by the editors Amanda Pollack, Andrew Marcus, and Eric Spang, the editors for Royale. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks.
Thank
I guess Andrew, my first question is for you because you cut the pilot. So I'm wondering, pilots tend to be a lot tougher for the editor because you have to work out sort of the kinks and things, and you have to sort of figure out the pacing and the style that you're going to be working in. So I'm wondering how you tackled Palm Royale and sort of what came up during that editing process.
I mean, this was unique because I came on, there was another editor on who left, and I came on and afterwards. So Amanda and Eric were already on the show. And the first episode wasn't quite working. So Abe and I really took it all apart and started from scratch. So I did it with Abe and as the showrunner, and found the tone and the style and with him. And there was a lot of trial and error, and there was a lot of trying to find the right music, the right tone, balancing the drama and the humor. There's a couple of odd scenes in it with like Dinah and Kristen Wiig at the bar where it actually goes because there's an abortion in it and regret, and it goes to some very dark places, but keeping the levity and the darkness and finding that balance was a real challenge for the pilot. And it is kind of a standalone episode because it travels from, her goal is to get into the Palm Royale Country Club, and then by the end she achieves her goal.
Yeah. Well, I
So
guess one of my questions is balancing that comedy and drama. So I'm wondering if you guys can sort of talk about how you approach that and sort of finding that fine balance.
it's way easier when you have really good actors like we did. So I
Yeah.
think they found that. Like, I think they're all comic actors who have done a lot of drama and can really turn on a dime
Hmm.
and know how to, where the turn is in the scene and how to play that scene.
My friends and I would make little videos in our backyards, imitations of Indiana Jones and Star Wars. And, eventually that need to tell stories became more of a technical interest and an interest in the art. To me, what's exciting is using cinema in its full potential, which is rhythm and sound design and music. Our job is to set up expectations and then deliver on them. I'm Brian Cates, and this is my course in film editing.
Was it different for you guys, Amanda and Eric?
Well, I mean, the scripts would come, and the actors, it's sort of, there's the script you read, and then what you're cutting in terms of what was shot and performed, and the tone is an interesting tone, and we were talking, there was a lot of score playing to try and find, once we cut the scenes, to what are we playing? Are we playing funny? Are we playing scary? Are we playing emotional? And to not sort of hit that on the head, but that would often be, it made it very difficult to temp because it could change quickly from one scene to the next, or even within a scene. But it's also what made it really fun to try and find out what that was. And Kristen and her character, she's just such a wonderful actress. She can be hilariously funny and incredibly emotional also. So I think she really helped just pull that all together with some glue as we jumped around in so many ways, frolicked about.
I do have to ask because Amanda, you worked in some of the later episodes, so 7, 8, and 10,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering because that's sort of where Carol Burnett's characters more vocal, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But she still relies a lot on her facial expression. So I'm wondering, like, as an editing perspective, you know, from when you're cutting something where it's the person's not very vocal, but it's all facial stuff, how did
Yeah.
that affect your pacing? Did that affect how you cut? Like, what was that like?
Well, I think I had to pinch myself with not believing I could cut Carol Burnett, because what an honor to
Hmm.
to edit her work. And she was so prepared and so good. Her lines were, she always knew that her comic timing is, people could learn from that.
Hmm.
And so a roll of the eye would be hysterically funny. There was plenty of hilarious stuff to pick through. And sometimes a good laugh comes from the reaction also of the moment, not just the person who's doing the act of the funny, but cutting to Kristen, in that moment could really amp up the funny of it. And I don't know, it's just sort of like you put it together. It's very instinctual. I have the script and I see what's there, and I cut it together, and then I watch it and I think, oh no, I don't, that moment doesn't feel quite right. And then you just start playing, like, and then of course other people get involved and they have and they want to look at other takes. But oftentimes in television, everyone's so busy. Not many people have too much time besides us to look at the material. So I feel like it's a very honored and trusted position to be able to do that. But Carol made it easy to cut something funny because she's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I have a scene with Carol where Kristen Wiig tries to smother her with a pillow.
Oh,
yeah.
so
She
funny.
was so over the top and so funny that it was a problem because Kristen just kept cracking up. Takes, it was hard for her to stay in character because Carol was funny.
Well,
Yeah,
and how,
there's a moment in 5 where Carol just goes like this before she speaks. And every time I saw it, I got hysterical. And Abe too. We would both just crack up at that moment every single time.
was there something that you guys like had to cut out but was really funny, but you wanted to leave in but just didn't serve the story?
Not that I can think of.
No.
I mean, I think when you're cutting comedy, you're one of the, at least personally speaking, I try to really fit in the best bits, and that's one of the objectives a lot of times when you're assembling a scene. You have these selects of things that are really amazing, and inevitably you can't fit them all in. But I think, even like the funniest things that they've got to serve the scene, or else ultimately they're not going to be as funny as the ones that are just sort of a weird one-off, you know what I mean? So the choices make themselves at a certain point. Yeah.
I think sometimes might have performances that we wanted to tamp down a little bit. They were too big for some preferences. So we would try and find a take that was a little bit more less out there, less animated, less hat on a hat kind of thing.
Yeah. What were the rushes like coming in? Like sometimes, especially in films, you would see they'll just do sort of a run of different like sort of ad-libbing or improving, but in a TV show you might be more structured by the script. Was there improving that gave you a lot of options, or what was that like for you guys?
There wasn't a lot of improving on my episodes. I mean, I think Abe really and Tate, they really wanted to move the camera a lot. And so things were rehearsed and there were really elaborate camera moves. And it's really hard when you have those kind of setups to do a lot of ad-libbing. There aren't, in my episodes, there weren't that many static two-hander scenes of people playing off each other.
How about yourself, Amanda? Was there any?
In the whale scene, there was an actor, he was a comedian. I forget his name now, but he did a scene with Kristen around the whale, and he was the whale expert.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of ad-libbing with her, and everyone on set was like, oh, I guess it was hilarious if you were there. But once I got the dailies, it wasn't, they kept wanting me to go on further with it. And I was like, it's not that funny to go on too long, because again, like Eric was saying, it started taking away from the story.
Mhm.
And so there was some ad-libbing, and it's funny and it feels like the right amount. But that was a little bit of a play as to how long it should be, because all the people that were there, a lot of the people just thought it should be theoretically longer than we ultimately had it be. So I think we found the right place, but that was a little bit of a challenge, just because sometimes sometimes there's more gold to be thought of than there
Mhm.
actually is. And there is gold, but you have to find the right amount of it. Otherwise it just feels too long, and then it's no longer as the goal we want it to be. So I think that was one spot that it ultimately, I hope, came out in a place that made everybody happy.
Well, it's interesting because I think about the whale scene, and that, I mean, I'm sure there was, set extensions and everything in other scenes, but like that's
Mhm.
the big VFX
Yeah.
in the series. So I'm always interested, especially when a character or something like, in this case, a whale, like we have one character who becomes infatuated with the whale. We have another one who's going to talk off a boat to the whale.
Mhm.
So like, how did you guys figure out rhythm and timing with those scenes, considering the whale wasn't there when you got the footage, but also they're not going to be, responding the way we want them to.
Yeah. Well, that was a challenging episode, and we had to do those scenes early on before the rest of the episode was complete, because it was going to take a very long time to do the whale. We used a company called Frame Store we used a different VFX house. They just did the whale episode. And so it was tricky, and it was just a big piece of blue plastic, on the beach. And Allison Janney just did an incredible job acting with this character that wasn't really there yet. So it was tricky, and how to pace it out. We used sound right early on in post, to build a character of a whale responding to things, and that was helpful in pacing it. And but and for the most part, I feel like it feels good. There might be a one or two shots I would have liked a little bit longer with the whale. Once I saw it, how great it was. They did a phenomenal job.
Mhm.
But it's a lot of just, yeah, it's tricky, but I think it came out quite well.
Is there a particular, I guess, a scene or something that you would say was your favorite scene to edit? And I guess if we can sort of jump through this, we could start with you, Eric.
Boy, that's a tough one. Um, I had a lot of fun with the big dance sequence I did. That was really fun. That was probably the one that stands out for me. Yeah. The,
Well,
It's
and
the one
that's
I'm almost jealous of.
I was gonna say that
yeah.
has so
Andy
much
kept coming in
coverage.
my
I
room
know.
being like, oh,
I have
I
real
cut a few
FOMO
days
about that
ago.
one. Yeah.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career. Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now.
Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
Well, it's such an interesting. How much coverage did you have for that? Because it feels like there was a ton of
A lot
coverage.
of coverage.
Yeah.
There was quite a bit. But there was a lot of, beats to hit too.
Mhm.
So, it was more sort of getting it to the closest it needed to be, and then finding ways to sort of stretch things and pull things to get it so everything sort of snapped into place. There was a lot of sort of time speed trickery that we used to make that happen. But keeping the choreography intact, but also making sure that you're getting each actor's best performance, was the balance that was, tricky to strike, but it's fun.
How about yourself, Amanda?
Well, I edited 4 of the episodes, and they were all kind of very different directors. So I got the chance to have that experience, which was really cool. I would say 7, which was directed by Abe Sylvia, our showrunner, was really fun. It was written by Sherry Holman and Logan Faust, and I actually co-edited it with my assistant Max Miller, and it was Abe's episode that he directed. So that had a beautiful vibe to it, just because it was sort of whole hodgepodge of people, talented, wonderful people working on it. And Abe, used to be a dancer, and I feel like the way he directed that episode, it was very choreographed and had beautiful movement, flow of the camera, flow of the story. And so that was really kind of a lovely one to work on, and he was very happy, and we had a great time doing it. So I would say that was a lot of fun. I mean, The Whale was a riot to work on because it's The Whale, and the finale with Tate Taylor directing, that was also a whole big fun experience. Tons of music, lush performances, and the way it looked. So that's a lot of favorites. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm assuming it's almost, it'd be tricky to pick a favorite performance because you have Carol Burnett, you have Ricky Martin, who looks fantastic. Like, I was blown away. I was like, oh, that guy looks a lot like that 20-year-old looks a lot like Ricky Martin. And then it turned out it was him. But yeah, like all the performances are pretty spectacular in this.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Andrew?
I mean, if from a purely editing perspective, it's the scenes that don't work, and then you like come up with some idea of how to make them work. So the dress montage, which wasn't supposed to be all graphics and everything, it was just a straight scene, and it didn't ever quite work. And so we just put music over it and tried all these graphics, and then made it really fun. Those are the really fun scenes from an editorial standpoint.
Oh, interesting. And that's earlier in like episode 1 or 2?
That's in 2.
Yeah, where she's trying to figure out the dress up.
Where she and Alice and Janney have
a dress off.
Dress off.
I have one last question for you guys. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch? Do you want to start with you, Andrew? Because you chuckled.
Like favorite of all time. I actually really I have 2 teenagers, so we've been doing a lot of teen drama series, like, and European ones like Elite.
Oh yeah.
We just watched one called Absolute Beginners, which is Polish, which is a really good, fun, guilty pleasure.
Okay. What's it about?
What's
the Absolute Beginners about?
It's about a young girl and boy who are applying to film school, and they're making a movie, and for their film school application, she is on the spectrum, and so she's very direct, and they meet this boy who's a basketball player from a completely different world, and the 3 of them sort of have this intense relationship in the summer. It's really good. I highly recommend it if you like teen angst TV shows.
Yeah. How about yourself, Amanda?
Well, oh gosh, I love a great film, and I also love a great television series. I also have a daughter, so we got really into Gilmore Girls and watched the whole thing right at a time where we needed some like mother-daughter bonding. It was suggested to us by by her 4th grade teacher to watch it, which was kind of cool. I don't know. The Devil Wears Prada is always a fun one that I like to dip into. I worked on that, but
Yeah.
I never get tired of seeing that amazing performance by Meryl Streep. And I think the editor, Mark Levolsi, did such a beautiful job pacing that film. I put in a lot of music in that, and it's a hard question. There's a lot of great stuff to watch, but I guess those would be a couple that I really enjoy.
How about yourself, Eric?
It is a hard question. Anything by Tarkovsky, I guess, is my guilty pleasure. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't really like a guilty pleasure. I wish I had more time to watch things, and it's impossible to keep up, but I don't really feel guilty about any of them, but I do watch British Bake Off a bit. I can. That's something I like to watch with my kids too. And it's like, I actually find it incredibly stressful though. It's not relaxing to me at all. So it's a real like nail biter, but yeah, not enough time, too much good stuff out there for sure.
Do you have one to share with us?
Yeah, what about you?
It ranges. I think if I go with, because I have kids too, so we watch Is It Cake? That's the one we watch together as a group, which is great because the kids love it. And the parents are like, I don't think I could do that as you watch it and realize how like skilled they are. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview today, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Instagram at filmmaker_u. I'm Gordon Raquel. Thanks for watching.